So welcome to the panel. I'd like you to welcome my panelists. First we have Beth Johnson, who's the SVP at SunTrust.
You can tell us at the end of the day, can't you?
Steve Blackett from HSBC. And we have the Dana Cheer Squad from CA. Join us, Dana.
Are we supposed to high-five each other or something? This is going to be fun.
Yeah, let's have fun. Yeah, okay. So, first I have to do the obligatory terms of the presentation. You can all read the fine print, so enjoy it. We can't read it from the stage, so it's okay. It's all good. But what I want to do is just a few words of introduction. And before I start, I would like the panelists to introduce themselves. So Beth, tell them everyone about you.
I'm Beth Johnson. I've been with SunTrust Bank for 20 years. This Saturday.
20 years.
20 years. And I'm overall release and test for SunTrust Bank.
Steve Blackett from HSBC. I've got about 25 years in IT now. My latest period is at HSBC. I'm working as an Endevor administrator. It's a team of 20 people globally.
Wow.
Dana?
Dana Boudreau. I'm a product manager at CA, and 20 years, huh?
20 years.
Not even 20 months for me at CA. Just actually just a few months, but over 30 years in the industry.
Okay, great. So what I want to do is just a short introduction to DevOps, and then we'll get on to the panel's questions that we've got. And then after that, we'll have an opportunity for you, if we have time, to ask a couple of questions as well. So as you can see here, there's some real trends that are really impacting, and we call them trends for DevOps. But clearly we're seeing a move to Agile in most organizations. We're seeing automated deployment, which we've talked about a lot. We're seeing lead times for test setups decrease. And we're moving from, I believe, sometimes yearly releases on mainframes, and Beth can talk about that more in a moment, to more regular releases. I'm not sure we want to do a release on the mainframe every 10 minutes, but we'll ask the panelists that in a minute. And then we're also having things like developers choose tools, aligned mainframe teams, and what we want to do is an aligned culture in teams. And then we want to have clear governance and accountability and traceability in what we do. And interestingly enough, some of these principles have always applied to the mainframe, so they haven't changed. So one of the things I often hear is that how long does it take to do a basic maintenance change? 8 to 12 weeks, 3 to 6 months. This is really a challenge for most of us. And then how do you do things like track dependencies of not just a few test scripts, but hundreds or thousands? This becomes a big issue right now. And then as we talked about earlier today, don't you just love those 3270 screens, right? Now I personally do, but I'm strange. But the reality is here that most people want a modern IDE, and that's one of the things we've got. And then automatic releases. So these are just a few of the thinking pieces that we thought about to frame some questions today. So first thing I'd like to do is ask the panel the first question. And that is, why is it that DevOps is hot in the mainframe right now? Why is it, I produced my report 3 months ago on mainframe and the DevOps, and I've been like totally inundated with calls. Why is that? Beth?
So what we're looking at right now is we're actually taking our applications and defining what's going to work in the agile space, transformational space. The mainframe, this legacy mainframe piece, appears to be the bottleneck. In other words, if I can't do them quick enough, how can I do the project end to end quick enough? So that movement into become more agile in mainframe, I believe, is the reason that's happening, is so the modular architect throughout the applications can be supported.
Okay. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually done the project twice now. So we started off with the bottom-up approach because we wanted to be part of it, because that's what the distributed guys were doing. So we wanted to do that too.
Right.
That didn't work.
Really?
Because the management don't really understand what DevOps is. The second time we did it, it came from the top. And that worked much better because they were telling us to do DevOps. So everybody had to do it, you had to get on board with it. And it was a case of, you're right, same thing. The mainframes the mainframe has to be part of the whole solution, so they need to react to what's happening in the distributed space, things like that.
So Steve, why the second time? Why were management so on board? What changed?
I think that's the point where they realized the mainframe was actually holding up some of those pieces, and they can't just do it alone with the distributed side. You have to sort of take the mainframe guys into consideration as well, and trying to bring them into the equation.
All right. So Dana, you've had a long and established and famous career in mainframe. That'll be $20, thank you. But tell us what you're seeing, because you get the perspective of many CA customers.
Yeah, I do, and it's been fun in the conference, a lot of feedback about our distributed counterparts have been doing this for a while, some really successful, some still working on it, but they're ahead of us. They're ahead of the mainframe, and they're realizing, as you said, Beth, that the mainframe is a critical part of the business, and if we're going to make change in the business, we're going to be successful in the business, we got to get the mainframe there. And that's, I think, helps drive the senior management to get involved and want the mainframe to be there. And because they're catch-up, they're just now getting to the point where the distributed guys have been for a while. And that's been reinforced in the conference here this week.
Yeah, and the bottom line is the mainframe is tried and true. And we're not going to spend millions of dollars to re-platform those things. What is it, 70% of the transactions in the world go through the mainframe?
Yes,
yeah, I don't think
What percentage number was that?
70%,
Okay.
70.
I'll have to check the source later, but that's
I think there's like
Dana
75 or
was the
80%.
source.
75 or 80% of the data
Right.
that runs the world is on the mainframe, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And Steve, you have a particular circumstance, HSBC, you're a global organization. A lot of servers, right? So what's the, 20,000 servers, I think is the number, or some...
200,000, but yeah.
What was that again?
Yes.
200,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're certainly not looking to move away from the mainframe.
Yeah.
Because, we'd need something like 250,000 servers to put the mainframe capacity on, so it's, the numbers just don't add up. Where would you put them?
Right.
Right. Exactly. Where is the estate going to go? And last time I checked, the mainframe actually in physical presence has got...
Yeah, it's just over there on the show floor, so it's really small now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you haven't been to see it, there's a nice mainframe just over there. You can go visit it. It's great. So I was going to ask Beth, in terms of your organisation, what has been the benefits of doing DevOps and bringing the mainframe in? Has there been a tangible business benefit?
Well, our journey is very, very young.
Right.
So I don't have any tangible benefits at this time. But just looking at it and saying it is now going to be part of that journey,
Right.
and no longer going to be the bottleneck of that journey, I think we'll have adoption much faster.
Right. All right. So we'll move on to the next question, which is an interesting one, and that is, can you share an example of DevOps being applied in your organisation today? So we're going to go the other way this time, and Steve, you get to go first.
Yeah, it's the same as Beth. It's early on in the journey, but interestingly, sort of looking at what we do today, sort of shows us that we've actually done quite a lot of these DevOps pieces already. We've got automation in some of the pieces, the critical pieces,
Right.
which you consider to be pain points, and just doing that sort of investigation to find out some of our key critical systems are actually doing the kind of things you would consider to be DevOps before DevOps was even a phrase. Fascinated me. So the idea of canary testing, dark launchers, this stuff, when I read it, I got to the bottom and it said it was a 20-year-old system and it's running on the mainframe, doing something like, on average, 2 releases a day. How is this even possible? So, and in some cases, we're already there. People have got enough momentum to be able to do this already. That doesn't mean we've solved any DevOps problems. There are still bigger issues there.
So canary releases, does that mean you have a canary in the data center?
I had to look up these things, so canary, it really is testing out on live people to see whether it goes wrong. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. So Beth, what are you seeing? It's early days, I understand that, but maybe what's the use case you really want to solve here?
Well, the use case is faster speed
Right.
to market. I mean, that's the primary use case that we're looking at. But then the whole collaboration with the teams, the value streams, the features that we want to put out quicker instead of these big, long, monstrous projects that take 18, 24 months. So it's reaching our customers at a faster speed. And we're looking at across all of it. We're starting with our processes, and then we're looking at our tool sets, and we're looking at our people. Do we have the right capabilities, those things. So that's where we are.
And are you finding in your processes there's some redundancy or fat you can remove?
Absolutely. We're doing value stream mapping on all of that right now, and we're starting to pull some of those out.
We could do a value stream map right here if you like.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, okay.
So
Dana.
So something Beth said, and she taking what used to be a whole bunch of features and breaking that down into smaller pieces and thinking about them as individual releases shortens the design time, shortens the time to do testing, shortens the regression testing typically because you're not making as many broad change, and really is a discipline that is, I won't say it's foreign to mainframe, but it's not traditionally what we've done, and it really drives it. And CA, we've been on a journey for a while, and we've seen 18-month cycles go down to 2-month cycles, and largely driven by looking at things and compartmentalizing them smaller and doing them iteratively.
And Dana, as you do things in a smaller piece, how are you seeing in terms of quality? Are you seeing any quality improvements?
Well, because it's a smaller piece, yes, you see quality because you can test that smaller piece in its context much more thoroughly. And one of the challenges we're down to like 4-week cycles.
4 weeks.
And now we're going to go to 2-week cycles. And so that's really pushing, you asked the question about quality, it's really pushing the technology from our perspective on how do we automate testing to go, because manual testing takes 2 weeks to do. And that may mean you didn't do any code. So we've got to do the code and test it in 2-week cycles.
So you just kind of code for 10 minutes and test?
Well, we can't do it that way, but that's one way of looking at it, Robert.
I think it's more like it's automated.
I've got a question for you. So you're doing all this. Are you using all of your tool sets here, the CA tool sets?
You're setting me up.
I'm setting you up.
That's my job, Beth.
I'm sorry.
So the
You
honest
say we're
answer,
new best friends.
the honest answer is yes, but we've still got room for improvement.
Okay. Did you change processes too? Because we'll be looking at that.
Yes, we've been on a journey like many customers from lean to agile, and we're now doing scaled agile in a big way. We're defining trains and getting really into scaled agile. And as you said, there's redundancy and but there's also delays in the system that are just the wait times that you got to think through. And so you make these leaps, you go from a month cycle and you say, I want to go to 2 weeks. You got to really sit down and think of what is it that's causing me to go to 4 weeks. And it's stressful to figure out how to get to 2 weeks. And we're not there yet, but just giving examples.
Yeah, good. So Steve, you want to add anything to this great discussion from your own experience?
As I say, we're at the start of the journey, so there's a lot of stuff to do, isn't there, with the automation pieces. So I think there's a long way to go.
Yeah, it's interesting, Beth. You mentioned value stream mapping. I'm a strong advocate of it. I love it. I worked with an organisation recently that we value stream mapped. I'll use a basic example: building a particular server. And it was 42 days. And after the value stream mapping exercise, without automation, we got it down to 4 days.
Wow.
I mean, is that the type of improvements you're looking for?
Is that OS and app? In other words, I could start working?
That was OS. We're going to do app as well.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 days. I mean, it should take 4 minutes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reason I asked that. We can spin a server up in 26 minutes. But
26 minutes.
26 minutes. But I can't do anything with it. It's just a blank OS.
Right.
I need my application on top of it.
Yeah, well, Dana would probably like to talk to you about that. He's probably got something to help you with that.
Of course.
All right, we're going to move along before I get into an area that's going to get me in trouble. In terms of what are some of the obstacles? And Dana, you've probably got the most experience with it internally at CA of all of us here, so maybe you can start.
So I was thinking about this. There are lots and lots of obstacles, and we could have a whole panel for a couple hours on a number of obstacles. But let me pick one.
Pick two.
Pick two. All right, I will do that. a big obstacle in the mainframe is spinning up a test environment, configuring the runtimes, getting the source code there, getting the data there. A large amount of data, worrying about PII, getting it all there. And because that's such a bottleneck, we've typically bundled lots of features together because it takes so long to get a test environment. You're not going to spin up a test environment to do one feature because it's just too much effort for one feature. So it's a big bottleneck that then drives behaviors like bundling lots of features, which then creates bad behaviors like harder to test, longer cycle times. And so fixing that boundary, or fixing that barrier, excuse me, of building test systems, being able to deploy code, deploy test data, and correlating all of that with your test cases is a big barrier that drives a whole lot of other bad behaviors.
And you've countered that, or countering that problem right now, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So Beth?
Being the organization that would test what he does, what we did 2 years ago was to relook at how we do release and test. And the message that I gave to my team, some of them sitting out here today, was we've got to get it right before they get ready. Because when they get ready, they can't wait for us to get it right. So that was that was the way we started addressing some of that. For us, some of the obstacles, it's the same thing you see on the distributed side. There's cultural changes. There's re-looking at your capabilities, re-looking at your processes. What does the tool suite look like? All of those things that you have to work through.
Right. So you're still new in this journey, so we'll give you a little bit of a pass, but you did talk about culture. Can you maybe talk a bit more about that?
On our requirements list from our developers, which seems to be a very one-sided DevOps journey to me, there's this sort of list of, we'd like to do all of these pieces that operations do right now, and that's kind of okay, but do the developers really know how to do those pieces? So that's the first issue. They said they want to do them, they think they can do them faster if we give them the automation tools to do it. So that's definitely sort of an issue. The other side is, because they're so abstracted from operations, they don't know what they can do anymore. So they're in this position of, well, we could potentially do this, but what else could we do in this space? So they're constricted by not understanding the bigger picture. I guess the older generation would know the bigger picture and say, yeah, I could do X, Y, and Z, but our developers are sort of struggling with what they could even bring to the game.
Right, so Beth, how did you tackle that issue? You talked about getting testing ready, right? Mm-hmm. So it's ready and you've addressed this issue. How did you address that in terms of process?
Well, so one of the things we did is we went in and did a complete test case refactoring. We used to write our test cases via projects. And now what we do, it was like walking into the library, and if I need to test deposits, I pull the deposits test cases down. So we went through a whole refactoring of that. We went through the staffing changes. I'm a managed service, and so we put into place the knowledge that we needed from our testers.
Right.
And they're now part of the teams. They're more part of the teams. They have knowledge of the domains they're in. We actually put a group together for the mainframe that actually has mainframe experience. So those are the sort of things that we started doing. And then start thinking about, we actually, before we started the movement, we started working with our mainframe teams that were doing these major maintenance upgrades and all. And we actually put them on a release calendar now. So they're starting to be very familiar with that, and they work with that because there's a lot of cross work stream dependencies, those sorts of things. So now they come to us, they let us do all the announcements for them.
So I think we were talking yesterday, right? And you talked about the fact that you could accelerate the release schedule.
Yes.
I mean, was that met well in the organization?
Yes, that's what they wanted. I mean, that's what the top does. Well, kind of, sort of. Let's just say this. We released the release calendar, and some people were, yay, we're going to go fast now. And then I had people saying, are you kidding me? We'll never be able to do this amount of work. And then I've got the business emailing me and said, I can't support anything like this. So it was a pendulum that was swinging back and forth.
So, Steve, have you had any experiences like that yet?
The testing's definitely our biggest pain point. Yeah, I mean, how do you manage that, and the release cycles behind that? Getting to that faster release schedule.
Right.
But sort of the other questions from the other side of, do we need to get there? Really, how important is this? We've got so many millions of lines of code as work in progress, but do we need to deploy it? What's the features that we're trying to deploy? So it's better that we really finish off the testing first, even though it's manual and painful, and go for those slower release cycles because we've got the quality behind it. And that's the current thinking.
Well, I think what Dana said, it took y'all a while to get there.
Oh,
and
yes.
and to think through that, and
Yes.
what is a feature.
Well, yes, exactly.
And how have each of you seen the collaboration between the teams? Beth, you touched on a little bit how you formed a team structure. How did you find that culture change to change from maybe silos to an integrated team?
So before the transformation started, I actually have a release manager that's assigned to every portfolio.
Right.
So we're sitting down and we're part of their planning with them. We've got our test teams assigned out to the segments. So we integrated ourselves in with them. So that's how we began the journey.
Right.
And now as we're going through sprints, they're sitting with them in their sprints, testing in their sprints.
And they're going
Not
to stand-ups?
mainframe yet. Oh, they go to stand-ups, absolutely.
Yeah, they're standing up every morning?
Every
Or do
morning.
we sit down?
Why don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
when
just get lazy if we sit, I guess.
Because it's a stand-up, so you don't stand there too long. So it's a short meeting.
I still don't know.
That's why you don't sit down.
I'm still got the problem when I go to Agile meetings, we're sitting down. I said it's a stand-up meeting, we should be standing up, right?
You should be, exactly.
That's the whole idea. So Dana, you've been living this, the shorter cycles, right? How have you found that culture team change amongst the organisation? Because you are already delivering faster, right?
Yeah.
You've already done that.
Yeah, so I also wanted to reflect on one other
Please.
part of the collaboration.
Go ahead.
There's collaboration within the development and the test and the people who are doing the documentation, what have you. But when you go to deploy on the mainframe, there's a collaboration across departments. The security department, the auditors that come in and want things to be audited a certain way, potentially the administrator of the source code and what I can do and what I can't do. And that collaboration can be a real bottleneck in delivery, a real bottleneck in quick movement, and that's another part of culture change. There's sometimes lack of trust that is based on history.
Good point. Good point.
The development guys typically haven't done it right, so they're scared. And there's pre-tests and there's acceptance tests and all that kind of stuff. Some of what takes time on the culture change is for that trust to break down, or lack of trust to break down, and there's more trust between the different departments. So, within CA, what are we seeing? I will say that across departments, we're working better.
Yeah.
When you think about a single capability that has a small set of features, we're focused. And I find with focus comes higher quality and faster cycle times.
Yeah, and a lot of organisations doing DevOps do things like coding pairs and things like that.
Yes.
Right? So.
I want to touch on something you said. As everybody starts this journey, as you're starting this journey, you hit on something, that's compliance. I mean, we're a bank, we're regulated,
Absolutely.
and there's many things that we have to do from a compliance standard when we put things out. We're having to teach them a little bit about this. We talk about the value stream mappings. We've got to understand what we absolutely must have and what is those things that were just nice to have. So we are starting those conversations. Says, hey, this is heavy, and it slows us down. What can we do about that, and what do we need to do about it?
Well, especially in the context of smaller feature sets.
Right.
If you're shipping something with 50 or 60 different changes in it, the implications of not going through a step thoroughly are much broader. And so you have to put it in that context now.
Yep.
Which is new.
Absolutely.
I think that comes back to risk-based decisions, right?
Very
right
much.
through the life cycle.
Very much.
Yep.
And for those who don't know, I do a lot of work with audit standards, and one of the things I'm having to do is teach the auditors in the guidance and best practice that we write that you actually need to shift the audit requirements left.
Can you come home with me?
Absolutely.
Because I would love for that to happen.
In fact, I do a lot of public speaking on that and a lot of meetings, because that's what I'm finding with DevOps as you get a little bit more mature, which you've shared, is that the security and compliance and audit need to move left with you.
Yes.
And in fact, to be part of it, and more mature sites integrate that into the test cycles as well. And I'm sure as you all mature a bit more, you'll get to that point as well.
Yep.
So, given the interest of time, we'll flip on to question 4. I agree with you, Dana. That last question we could do for an hour, no problem at all. So, let's touch on benefits and what type of benefits we can get. And Beth, tell us some benefits.
Well, again, I think the quality will be there because you are laser focused with it.
Right.
The speed to market
Right.
definitely will be there. And just the maturing of the organization and the collaboration that you typically don't see, I think
Right.
is going to be some of the major benefits.
So a big value we have seen is by doing things quickly and getting that in front of customers and our clients and getting feedback
Yep.
on a timely basis before we've written this big monolithic solution that maybe we hit the mark 50% and missed by 50%. By doing it quickly, getting feedback, we can pivot, we can really get to the market faster with something that people really value, rather than something, oh, you almost got it.
Yeah.
And that speed to market, speed to customer feedback is critical to being successful at a business, which obviously then drives revenue and customer satisfaction.
So, Steve, what are you looking for?
There's a cultural change, just getting dev and ops to work together better. And a guy yesterday said, you mean your dev and ops people don't talk to each other at the moment? And they really should be doing that. But it's a case of the us and them scenario really is true in organizations. And thrown over the wall for operations to support from development when it doesn't work. The two departments, they should have been doing this a long, long time ago. Why have organizations been created like this? Why is DevOps sort of just taking off now when it was around in 2008? So we're just catching on
longer
now.
than that.
Exactly. It's just the fact is that it's off the back of Agile, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Agile's driven it, yes.
So it's now starting to trend, and it feels good. It's going to make a difference to the organization. You're going to work better with your colleagues, and that's only got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
Well, I don't think people thought about the mainframe being agile.
Yeah.
They didn't. Never would you hear that sort of thing. Hey, we're going to go be fast on the mainframe. Yeah, really? So, but now that discussions had to start because they were going to become that bottleneck.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. After my session earlier today on DevOps and the mainframe velocity, one of my colleagues posted a tweet and she got a reply saying the two are mutually exclusive, which was kind of really interesting because I can tell you from talking to you all and many others that they're not. They're actually working together as good partners. So we've got 2.5 minutes left. So I don't know what happened to our time. So I'll actually, Dana, I'm going to put this question to you. And Dana's going to have to read it. What tools and best practices have helped you drive DevOps adoption?
Oh my gosh. All the CA tools. No,
That's going to go well on the recording.
We'll edit that out later.
That'll be the highlight, by the way.
We're using Endevor every day to do continuous integration, continuous delivery. We've got automated testing behind all of that, using some homegrown stuff as well as stuff we deliver. We are working in both modern IDE as well as an ISPF.
Yep.
So yeah, we use all of our tooling to make it all come together.
And Steve, you're big into Endevor, right?
I think Dana's done the CA plug enough. Let me talk about best practices instead. I think
Go for it.
The thing for us was to sort of find out what's there already. It's really just, if you didn't know anything about DevOps, go and find out about it. Find out what you're actually doing right now. And as I said, there's a number of things we're doing at this point in time that could be considered DevOps before DevOps was even a concept. So understand what you're doing today. That's the best practice piece, to start off at that point, and then you know what the gap is in your requirements, and you can fill those in with your pain points.
So you've almost a people, process, and then technology type approach?
It's that, definitely. The answer to DevOps is not tooling. I've discovered that. It's definitely not tooling. It can be featured in there, but you've got to start off by understanding your processes and where your pain points.
But do you know how many people do that? And I finally figured out why. Because tools are sexy and processes.
They're the answer on Google.
Period.
Yeah,
right.
There's 6 million results right now.
It's crazy. So yeah. So we did it. Tools rationalization. You have to do it.
Yeah.
Process rationalization. All of those things have to come together.
Yeah, but-
Identify those gaps.
And you did these programs of work fairly much in parallel, but
Yes,
you did
yes.
start with some people stuff. I
Oh
remember.
yeah, absolutely. I did. Internally we had to look at ourselves, and again, we got to get ready for this, and you
Yeah.
know, because if we're not ready, then there's no way. I mean, you're my client, you're my customer. Then we wouldn't be able to support them.
Got you. Great. Well, time, which has been our friend, has now become our enemy, and there's a flashing red light going at me right now.
I know.
So, don't you hate that? So we've still got time, by the way, here to go and see some of the demos. Have a look at that. Enjoy the party. There's some great stuff to see. But with all of that, I'd like to thank my panelists for joining me today and you for joining us as the audience. Thank you very much.